My teaching philosophy. My teaching philosophy is focused on providing a safe, supportive, and creative environment for students within my class. I believe this can be accomplished by building genuine relationships with students, understanding their needs, and inclusivity. I aim to encourage my students to do their best, take chances, and always try both in and out of the classroom. My teaching philosophy has grown and developed over many years, and through this, I have come to focus on elements such as differentiation, assessment, relationships, support, and individuality. I've been influenced over the course of my educative journey through many theorists. I feel that to be an effective teacher, you need to take from many theorists and explore their ideas and knowledge. By doing so, you can see what is the best teaching approach for you, what works for you within the classroom, and how to develop your own teaching philosophy. Theorists that have influenced me are Dewey, Vygotsky, Reggio Emilio, Gardner, Piaget, and Thomson. Through my education, I have engaged with beliefs and practices from these theorists and have taken time to evaluate how these have influenced my own teaching philosophy. When aiming lessons for students, I feel that teachers need to be aware of their students, where their students are achieving, and provide realistic and achievable goals. With some extra assistance from others, children are able to do the things that they would not normally be able to do on their own. It is important to be aware of and work with the student's CPD, as by doing so you can achieve a worthwhile lesson. If a lesson is authentic and involves the learner to provide them with an active learning experience, the child has not just been there during the lesson, but engaged deeply with it. Children are motivated to learn and develop a positive disposition towards learning. It is through this authentic and active tasks that we as teachers are able to engage with students and provide them with educative experiences that they have not just rote learnt. However, they have instead connected deeply with and constructed their knowledge around. John Dewey asserted that learning comes from experiences and active involvement. It is the teachers that we remember and admire that were able to engage us with our education, rather than just allowing us to coexist. They allowed us to interpret what we saw, heard, or did, and then actually construct our own understanding of it, and not just accept what we were told. It is those times when we were young, looking back on now, not realising how important play was for our education. When children play within the classroom, they develop those social rules and norms. They take risks and experiment, and they explore their worlds and those of others. Play allows children to extend their worlds beyond the walls of their classroom. When thinking back to teachers who I truly connected with, it were those who I had genuine relationships with. When you knew as a student your teacher cared about you, it made school that much better. You worked harder because you knew it wasn't just you, it was a partnership between you and your teacher. Relationships at the centre of the curriculum, the focus is on a collaborative learning approach with strong partnerships between educators, children, families, and the local community. These teachers took the time to learn about you and engage with your virtual school back. They understand that what you brought to school was important and they valued the contribution. My own education was not focused on different learning styles until I became much older. However, knowing what I know now, I endeavour to use these styles for students. Coming from a special needs background, I understand the importance of senses to help children learn, those kinesthetic learners. From a general education setting, it is important to note that students are not all the same, and it would be awful if they were. Use visuals and music, engage with those multiple intelligences, and drive the students to be all that they can be. For my first standard, I'm going to discuss Standard 2.1, Content and Teaching Strategies of the Teaching Area. Demonstrate knowledge and understanding of the concepts, substances, and structure of the content and teaching strategies of the teaching area. For this standard, I was focusing on a literacy lesson that I taught examining report writing. The school that I was at delivered their lessons differently to what I was used to. As a classroom teacher, you either taught math or English. Students would swap over other side of the corridors depending on what they were learning. In order to teach my lesson, I needed to have a thorough understanding of the concept of report writing. My first lesson, I found myself telling students how to write a report one way and why. It wasn't until I reflected upon my lesson that I saw that I'd missed the mark. To best show my knowledge to students, I found that by modelling how to write a report, I could engage with different elements of writing. I wanted to show drafting, proofreading, editing, spell checking, vocabulary choices, and other progression points needed before being ready to publish my work. I used different coloured markers to show students my writing process, editing, and how this would look. By modelling these concepts to students, I was able to show authentic personalised learning rather than just telling them what they should do or include. I was also able to include students' work within my writing, engaging with them, asking questions, and for feedback on my own work. I wanted to highlight to students that feedback and communication regarding work was valuable, as others could provide insights or suggestions that you had missed. I also wanted to teach students how to provide effective feedback using the language and key concepts. I did this by questioning the feedback I was provided, having students justify their reasoning and not just adding suggestions given without talking about them and fully understanding their benefit. When I reflected on my lesson, I was able to note that I modelled techniques for writing that I had not focused on. For example, my spacing between words, letter size, using a comma or a full stop, and writing neatly. I felt that by using the teaching strategies that I did, I was able to demonstrate my knowledge and understanding of the concepts, substances, and structure of the content of the teaching area. The next standard I will be discussing will be Standard 3.6, Evaluate and Improve Teaching Programs, demonstrate a broad knowledge of strategies that can be used to evaluate teaching programs and improve student learning. Evaluation of teaching programs to improve student learning is an area in which I have ensured to engage with, as I feel it is very important to my teaching practice. I have evaluated my teaching through feedback, reflection, asking questions, staff meetings, and personal development. Feedback from a peer or mentor is crucial to learning, as they have watched your practice and can provide ideas or suggestions on how improvements can be made. I have made sure that I have listened to feedback over the course of my placements and tried to implement it the next time. I have kept a journal from each practicum of my reflections of lessons, meetings, and interactions with students. This has helped me to grow as a teacher, as I would use this reflection time to create goals, evaluate my lessons, and look for improvements which could be made. I make sure that I ask questions of both my lessons and teaching self and reflect on the information provided so that I can use it effectively. Through staff meetings and personal development, I have found that teachers are willing to ask for help, and through this I've been able to learn many lessons for behaviour management, curriculum, and general classroom situations. By attending these, I have been able to learn from a wide variety of teachers with differing experiences, not just my own mentor. I feel that an important part of developing a broad knowledge of strategies that can be used to evaluate teaching programs to improve student learning can be achieved through communication. I have attended personal development through the AASC, specifically their Teach Meets. Teachers from all over Victoria in the special needs sector meet either face-to-face or via Skype to discuss strategies and the curriculum. Teachers share their knowledge and resources to aid others in the evaluation and improvement of their teaching for student learning. Another strategy I've heard of which can be used to improve programs and student learning is Wow Week. A local secondary school conducts Wow Week each term, which allows teachers to go into another class for a lesson and watch how another teacher takes that lesson. I feel it allows teachers to take a step back from the role of the teacher and become a learner. By doing this initiative, it provides an insight into the teaching methods and also general classroom practices. By observing others' lessons, you can take bits and pieces and think about how effective they would be in your own classroom and how these could be used to improve student learning. Linking back to the idea of communication previously mentioned, it is important to communicate with other staff members in your school community and share what you've learned and developed. There is no purpose to attend a PD and keep the information from yourself. All teachers should aim to improve their teaching programs through a broad range of strategies which can be developed through communication, feedback, watching others, asking questions, further education and reflection. These strategies all aid within evaluation and can be used to improve student learning. The final standard I will be discussing will be 2.2 Content Selection and Organisation. Organise content into an effective learning and teaching sequence. I created a drama unit of 3 lessons which examined Charles Dickens' Great Expectations, aimed at a Year 5-6 level. It required me to focus on the key concepts of the novel, who were the characters and what had happened. This unit was created to use readers' theatre in order to portray the text in a more approachable manner for younger students. These lessons were not aimed at teaching the students the language of Dickens. I used a simplified illustrated version for the students. The aim was to demystify a classic. I feel that many students do not see text such as Dickens until they're in high school and become overwhelmed as they attempt to engage with all the elements of the text. This aim was to use a focus of the characters and a simplified story that students became familiar with the classic and hopefully would not be confronted when meeting another classic later in life. The story was broken into key chapters and highlighted important characters, themes, and scenes. It was from those students who were to engage with these characters through drama and literacy activities such as brainstorming, tableaus, sequencing of the text, scripting, hot seating, providing feedback to peers, and performing the scenes. There needed to be a strong emphasis on learning and teaching sequencing, as students needed to develop dramatic and literary skills before being able to produce the final product. Each lesson built upon the next and developed a skill from the previous lesson. Students were initially scaffolded in their learning before the teacher took the role of the learner within Lesson 2. By Lesson 3, the teacher had stepped back and allowed the students to perform. The unit's intention was to explore the dramatic action, empathy, and space in the improvisation, play building, and scripted drama, to develop characters and situations, develop skills and techniques of voice, movement, and character, of mood and atmosphere, and focus on dramatic action. Understand that patterns of language interaction vary across social contexts and types of text, and that can be used to signify social roles and relationships, and make connections between own experience of those characters and events represented in text drawn from different historical, social, and cultural contexts. The first lesson had students listening and engaging with the text, and then having a whole class discussion and brainstorming concepts from it, i.e. characters and scenes. And they were then introduced to the idea of tableaus being scaffolded and prompted by the teacher. Groups were then created and scripts provided from Great Expectations. After some time, the students would create tableaus again, still scaffolded by the teacher. Lesson 2 began with students referring back to the mind maps created in Lesson 1 and reminding themselves of the ideas discussed. They then engaged with activities such as a character walk, rumour circle, and hot seating to develop their characters. The teacher would participate with the students taking on the role as teacher as the learner. The final lesson started with students doing a character and emotion walk to develop and build upon the traits and characteristics from Lesson 2. They were then required to reform their groups from Lesson 1 and create the tableaus. Students were given time to practice and then as a whole class come back together. Students would perform once again, and then as a class they would organise and perform the tableaus again to show sequencing and the story. Students would fill in peer feedback sheet discussing their work of their peers in the format of 2 stars and a wish. The lesson finished with self-feedback completed individually by students and examining the teamwork and dramatic and literacy skills. In summary, I feel that these 3 standards are just a few of the standards that I've engaged with in my teaching so far. Overall, I do not believe there is just one way to teach students. It takes lots of different approaches, critical reflection, and understanding of theories. As my educative journey continues and I have many different experiences, I will be able to reflect and use these in order to further my learning and self. By constant reflection and seeking education, teachers are able to be the best that they can be. It is important to see yourself as a learner within your classroom, use feedback, seek answers to those hard questions, and never settle. I feel strongly about the now cliched statement of the day you stop learning is the day you die. However, as a teacher, I find this incredibly accurate.